the United Nations Organization. In this video, we are going to learn about the United Nations Organization. We will learn about the objectives of the United Nations and then the principal organs of the UN. And after that, we will learn about the composition and functions of the General Assembly. Also, we will learn about the composition and functions of the Security Council. Likewise, we will learn about the functions and composition of the International Court of Justice. First of all, let's learn about the objectives of the United Nations. The main objective is to maintain international peace and security and to save the succeeding generations from the scourge of war. Actually, the United Nations were established after the Second World War. Second World War was quite devastating. Also, the objective of the United Nations is to develop friendly relations among nations and to cooperate in solving international problems of economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character. Also, to create faith in human rights and the dignity and worth of the human beings, and to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. To establish conditions under which justice and respect for international law and international treaties can be maintained. Also, to be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations and achieving these ends. So, these are the objectives of the United Nations. Now, come to the principles organ of the United Nations. As we all know, the United Nations was established on 24th October 1945 and it has 6 principal organs, namely General Assembly, Security Council, Secretariat, Economic and Social Council, Trusteeship Council, and International Court of Justice, in which the Trusteeship Council ceased to work after 1994. Now, move ahead to the General Assembly. So, General Assembly is like a legislative body of the United Nations. The composition of the General Assembly is like that. All the members of the United Nations are the members of the General Assembly. As we know that currently 193 members are in the United Nations. So all these countries are also the members of the General Assembly. It meets every year on the third Tuesday of September. Each member state can send up to 5 delegates, though each state have one vote. Special sessions may be convened by the Secretary General of the United Nations. Now, what are the functions of the General Assembly? So, the main function is supervisory. It regulates the working of other organs and agencies of the United Nations. It goes through the reports from the Security Council and other organs of the United Nations. The Secretary General is the most visible figure of the United Nations. The current Secretary General of the United Nations is Antonio Guterres. He is from Portugal. He was also the former Prime Minister of Portugal. Financial function. The United Nations General Assembly approves the budget of the United Nations and determines the contribution borne by the member state. Deliberative functions. It makes a recommendation on the principles of international cooperation in the political field. Also, it makes recommendation for promoting international cooperation in the economic, social, cultural, educational, and health fields. Electoral functions. The Assembly elects the non-permanent member of the Security Council. As we all know, the Security Council has 15 members, in which 5 members are permanent and 10 members are non-permanent, elected for 2 years. So, non-permanent members are elected by the General Assembly. And the judges of the International Court of Justice are also appointed by the United Nations General Assembly. It appoints the Secretary General on the recommendation of the Security Council. It also elects the member of the Economic and Social Council. Also, the Assembly has the power to amend the UN Charter. Also, one of the main functions is Uniting for Peace Resolution. The Uniting for Peace Resolution was adopted by the General Assembly during the Korean War in November 1950. During the Korean War, the North Korea and South Korea fought a battle in which the North Korea was supported by USSR and China, whereas the South Korea was supported by the United States, and it was a time of Cold War. Under the resolution of Uniting for Peace resolution, The General Assembly may take action to settle any dispute which the Security Council fails to solve. Now, move towards the Security Council. The Security Council is called the enforcement or the executive wing of the United Nations. As we have seen that the United Nations General Assembly can also be termed as a legislative body, whereas the Security Council can be termed as the executive wing of the United Nations. It consists of 15 members. 5 of them are permanent members known as Big Five. The Big Five are China, France, Russia, Britain, and the United States of America. The 10 non permanent members are elected by the General Assembly for a term of 2 years. The negative vote of permanent member is called a veto. All the Big Five or the permanent five like China, France, Russia, Britain, and the United States of America have the veto power. Veto power is like a negative power. If a permanent member oppose a resolution, then that resolution drops and it would not continue with the same. The council meets once a month. Now, what are the functions of the United Nations Security Council? So, the main task given to the UNSC is to maintain the international peace, and it maintain the international peace in following manner. The council investigate any dispute or situation which may lead to international tension. It may recommend methods of adjusting such disputes, etc. It may recommend methods like negotiation, mediation, arbitration to decide disputes. It may call on members to apply economic sanctions to stop aggression. It may recommend interruption of rail, sea, air, postal, or other means of communication. It may also recommend the severance of diplomatic relations. It may finally resort to military operation by air, sea, or land forces. If we talk about other functions of the UNSC, is to recommend the admission of new members, to participate in the election of the judges of the International Court of Justice, and to recommend to the General Assembly the appointment of the Secretary General. Actually, the Secretary General is appointed by the United Nations General Assembly, but on the recommendation of United Nations Security Council. Now move ahead towards the International Court of Justice. The International Court of Justice comprises of 15 judges and the tenure is of 9 years each. So the 15 judges are appointed for the term of 9 years. The Security Council and the General Assembly each separately chooses 15 judges. Out of these, those 15 judges who are chosen on the basis of majority vote are elected as the judges of the court. If two persons of the same nationality are chosen, the elder one will become the judge. The judges are elected for a term of 9 years. The court has a president and a vice president elected for a term of 3 years. The court has a registrar also. The court is situated at The Hague in Netherlands, and it is the only principal organ of the United Nations whose headquarters is situated outside of the United States of America. Now, let's talk about the functions of ICJ. Compulsory function. Look, its jurisdiction extends to the disputes pertaining to the interpretation of international laws. It also deals with reparation, means compensation to be made by a party for a breach of an international agreement. Advisory opinion. The court render advice when requested to the General Assembly and the Security Council and to other bodies of the United Nations on legal issues. So it also works as an advisory body. Codification of international law. The court has played an important role in the codification of international law. Voluntary jurisdiction. The court is competent to entertain a dispute if the concerned states agree to take the issue to it. For example, like Kulbhushan Jadhav case, it was bring to the ICJ. It also evolved procedure for peaceful settlement of dispute. The court may recommend appropriate methods of settlement of all disputes. That's it in this session. Thank you so much. Have a great day.